All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker Carl. And today we are talking about the book, we're continuing our discussion of the book, Hunting Discomfort by Sterling Hawkins. And we are still in chapter 2. We are on page 22 if you have the hard copy at the section titled The Origin and Nature of Lenses of Belief. But before we get started with that, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. And then Catherine, you can take it away with the reading.
Hey guys, Jason from Tampa.
Lori Emmons in Denver.
Dan Sisek in Las Vegas.
Kenji, Gorham, Maine.
Good morning, it's Catherine Clement, and I'll start the reading. The origin and nature of lenses of belief. Lenses of belief all come from the same place, the past. Your upbringing, your parents, what you've lived through, your culture have all contributed to forming your current structure of beliefs and perspectives. In fact, most of our core beliefs are established by the time we're 7 years old. Using the past is useful to understand what works and what doesn't work. Problem is, the past is not always a great predictor of what might work in the future. This is why many of our unexamined beliefs can actually be holding us back. If you're from central New York State, like I am, you probably know what a pike is, a famously aggressive carnivorous fish. When placed in a tank with smaller fish, the pike will immediately devour them. German zoologist Carl Moebius was a pioneer in the field of ecology who conducted a groundbreaking experiment back in the 1800s when he was a director at the Museum for something in Berlin. It's been replicated many times since, and it's an experiment I first read about in Josh Linkner's New York Times best-selling book, Disciplined Dreaming. Researchers placed a glass barrier in the tank, separating the pike from the smaller fish. The pike repeatedly smashed itself against the glass, but was unable to break through and catch its prey. After a while, the pike stopped bashing its poor nose against the invisible barrier and sank to the bottom of the tank, defeated. This is where it gets interesting. The scientists then removed the glass, allowing the pike access to its food once more. To everyone's surprise, it didn't stir. Even when dinner swam directly in front of its mouth, the pike remained listless at the bottom of the tank. It had so thoroughly internalized the invisible barrier and the view that hunting was futile that it, brace yourself, ended up dying of starvation. This experiment demonstrates the power of faulty lenses and the way past experiences can paralyze, constrain, and limit future results. There's now even a name for this kind of thinking, Pike syndrome. Don't be Pike-minded. Pike syndrome illustrates a form of faulty lenses or limiting beliefs that may be impacting your results. Although you may or may not be famously aggressive in the circles you run in, you can think of the smaller fish as your goals, your dreams, or simply the things you want to achieve. Limiting beliefs based on past experience may be showing up for you in one of 3 primary ways. 1. I couldn't then, so I can't now. Just as the pike assumed that since there was previously a glass barrier, there would always be a glass barrier, we too can fall prey to the belief that because we couldn't do something in the past, we also cannot do it now. Previous business failures may generate a belief that you cannot be successful in future business opportunities. A tumultuous relationship in the past can lead you to conclude that that's just the way it will always be. Experiencing the same results for a decade might lead you to believe that the next 10 years will be just the same. Remember, the past has little bearing on the future unless you allow your past beliefs to create your future. Number 2, it's not worth the risk. If we personify the pike for a minute, how do you think it felt after all that failure? It might have felt dejected, lost, even embarrassed. Its entire reputation as the baddest of the bad was decimated. not to mention the physical pain it endured from repeatedly smashing into the wall. Many of us have been there in one way or another, and these experiences can lead to the creation of a lens of belief that makes us more averse to the risk of failure. Avital S. Chernowski, a researcher at the University of Montreal, and Clay B. Holroyd from the University of Victoria found that the brain automatically overvalues immediate rewards and undervalues future rewards, even if that future reward is much greater. This means that if we are looking through a risk-averse lens, we are going to value our immediate reputation and comfort over the potential success on the other side of risk. We lose our ability to properly assess risk, a skill required by every successful leader, and stay entrenched in our existing conditions where we believe we are safer and more comfortable, until we starve to death, that is. Number 3, that's just the way it is. Pike resigned itself to the reality that it can't hunt fish. How many times have you just resigned yourself to a situation, idea, or circumstance, sometimes without even thinking about it? Resignation is a lens of belief that plagues society and is the bane of innovation and growth. How many years did we accept the rigmarole of calling a cab, worrying about the route, and sorting out paying with cash or card because that's just the way it is? Then Uber came along, challenged that complacency, and did something about it. Just a second. And did something about it, making billions of dollars in the process. Things are the way they are until you do something about them. You don't have to have the mind of a Pike. Although examining your beliefs might be uncomfortable, an unexamined life is clearly much more painful. Greek philosopher Socrates didn't even think it was one worth living. Now, reread the 3 numbered sections on the previous pages. You might find a profound discomfort when you believe you have no control over your future and are stuck with the results that you have. Now you know that even taking the safe route and avoiding all discomfort, well, just ask the Pike how that turned out. Discomfort doesn't have to be a bad thing. It makes an excellent starting place for identifying areas where a faulty or limiting belief may be obstructing your perspective. Whenever there is a disconnect between our lens of belief and the result that we want, we feel discomfort. For example, Pike would have felt the discomfort of extreme hunger at a certain point. For us humans, we might feel pain, anxiety, or frustration. It's not an evolutionary error or something you need to manage. That discomfort is waving a big flag, signaling that right here is a belief that isn't working for you. I'm sure you want to chew on that.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about these 3 for a minute. I mean, just this experiment with the Pike, I think we've all heard of similar experiments. If we haven't heard that one, have you guys heard about the one with the elephant, where they tied the elephant's leg and he was,
Yeah,
staked for a while? Yeah. And then they took it off and then he still stayed there, an elephant. So, I mean, to think about just how much that can impact, an animal. I mean, think about all the different things that we are faced with as we're growing up or as we have evolved to the age where we are right now, all the things that we've faced that have stopped us in some way and how they might still be stopping us going forward. And it's kind of like this concept of this part here where he's talking about it's not worth the risk, and it says that the brain automatically overvalues immediate rewards and undervalues future rewards. And I can tell you, I mean, so many times I'm faced with that exact thing, particularly when we're talking about, for me, well, there's all kinds of things with me, but I'll say the one that is kind of a challenge for me right now is my diet and exercise. That's a big one for me because I really want to eat better. I want to, eliminate stuff that isn't so great for me. Like for me, I love having cream in my coffee, and that it's like an immediate reward, right? Feels good to me right now, but I know that if I cut that out of my diet, I'm going to have less achiness in my joints. And yet at the same time, and that doesn't even have anything to do with exercising or anything. It has everything to do with getting this immediately reward of this just flavor that I really, really like. But I know if I just stop putting that in my coffee and stop, having cheese so often, I have I don't know if it's a lactose intolerant dairy. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it creates inflammation in my joints. And I know that I consciously, it's a thing I know, but for whatever reason, because of like what he's saying here, it's like wired in our brains, this immediate pleasure overrides what we know can be a much more beneficial thing for us in the future. I'm faced with that with, exercise. I'm faced with that with my daily eating, I mean, there's all kinds of things. And because I know if I eat less of the crap that I shouldn't have, then I'm not going to be carrying around as much excess weight as what I am. I'm going to have more ability to do physical activity if I get more active, but then here I am, I mean, I do some, and but yet at the same time, that immediate reward up front is kind of the thing that I struggle with. So I mean, how many times are we faced with those similar kind of situations when it's not just a physical thing, but maybe it is a challenge that we're faced. Like right now I have, I was mentioning before we got on here, I was talking to my friends about the fact that I have interviews to do, like phone interviews. And, for me, it's a challenge for me to get on the phone and call people. I mean, it's a silly thing, but I procrastinate it and I put other things in front of it that I enjoy doing, more than making phone calls. So again, it's that aspect of it. Even though I know, okay, if I do this, then, we're going to have people to drive our trucks this year. So I'll let you guys talk. I'm sure you each have examples of where you've been faced with something similar.
Well, I was gonna say, I think we do that to ourselves, like the Pike. We just, and I do agree. I think it stems from things from what we lived and what we dealt with when we were younger, and it kind of got built into. I think going back to how I think you said it, Catherine, like our core memories or our core whatever, that sets up our, how we see the world. And so then at that point, we're internally wired that way. So then when we get out in the world, and even though we know we want to change that internal wiring, it's harder to change that internal wiring than just say, oh, well, I like it and I'm just going to do it, like you with the cream or me with, I'm like you. I know I'd like to eat better and get better with, my eating and my exercise. I've lost some weight, but part of that has come because of I don't eat like 3 meals a day. I kind of munch all day long, and then in the evening I'm trying to get better at eating a better meal at night. But during the day, when I'm driving, I admit I'll have caffeine, in the form of a soda, and I drink that all day long, and I'll munch on those little breakfast cereals that come in the little cups. So I get one of those and I snack as I'm driving all day, but it gives me that immediate fuel, but in the long run, it's not helping my body nourish it the way I would like to. But yet I sit there and say, yeah, but this is my little reward. And I say this to myself, it's my reward because I'm out there hustling my butt off to make this money so I can live and survive and things like that. And I think we quantify it too. We always, give us, and I think that idea of the reward, immediate reward, where I hate to say it, society gears it that way too. It's like, oh, well, let's give you the reward now because it's a smaller reward, but you'll get that feeling of that high now. Whereas if you put it off and wait for the bigger and better return and the better, that one might last longer and be better and be more beneficial. But we don't want to go through the waste of the time of doing that because we want it now, and being the selfish people that we are for ourselves, we'll say, no, I'm going to do this now. It's and then we get in that cycle, and it's hard to get off that wheel, like the hamster wheel. You just kind of, keep going and going and going. And when you get off, you're kind of at a loss. And so you go back to what's comfortable and what seems normal.
I totally agree that those three things are very much ingrained in my life, that the programming before I was responsible for my own choices and things like that. And then you also have the consequences and the challenges of the choices that you do make. But if you were constantly ingrained in things like, if you can't do it right, don't do it at all, or if don't tell me you can't never did anything, and to constantly be trying to do something like the Pike, have to bash your head against the glass and not get the results you're wanting. And the third example escapes me at the moment, so somebody else go ahead.
I think it's incredibly. Sorry, go ahead, Jason. You go
ahead,
first.
Kenji.
No, you go first.
I just wanted to say that was a great point in reference to that the idea of the past rewards not meaning as much or meaning more. But also, I mean, they talked about rewards, but it's also the pain that, rewards doesn't mean as much. The pain is what we remember. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, me? I think a whole pharmaceutical industry is built around the poor fish at the bottom of the tank. I think it's an incredibly insightful experiment. And it reminds me of an experiment they do with baby infants, where they put the mom and the babies in a room, and then they had the moms get up and leave, and then they analyze the baby's behavior, and like the fish, they can learn an awful lot about the caregiver, the mom, the relationship between the baby and the mother, just by the way that baby reacts when the mom leaves. And so that's really where I began my journey with Gabor Mate, and really learning how to escape the sticky past. But like I said, when I started, there's a whole industry. But I felt bad for I felt bad for the Pike. It's like he doesn't realize all he's got to do is eat. That it's right there. That reminds me of life. It's when you're in an avoidance. When you live an avoidance lifestyle, life is all around you, and you just miss it. I really like this group. Thank you so much.
Were we talking
glad-
about? Oh, go ahead,
ahead.
Catherine. I was
Go
going
ahead.
to say something else, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, we're glad you joined us, Kenji. And funny enough, because we always talk before we start recording, we were talking about a group called Mentoring for Free. I don't know if they're still out there or not, but they do free training, business training for people, entrepreneurs. And I was going through some notebooks last night and came across that Mentoring for Free. Now, this was years and years and years, I don't know, 7 to 10 years ago, I guess, when I was involved with them. But in my notes, which nobody else could ever read my notes, like when I die and people find my notebooks, they're going to be like, "Oh my God." 'Cause I write from every direction, like I don't label anything. It's the craziest thing. But I had "Don't be a Pike" in my notes that I found last night in these old notebooks. So this story has been around for some time, and it's it's just nature, I guess. It's like, how many times do you bang your head against the wall before you just stop? And unfortunately, Kenji, that there was a doctor, I can't remember his name now, but there was a doctor when I was growing up that, well, when you were growing up too, a lot of us, because we're all about the same age, um, that was his theory, was that you put kids in a bedroom and let them scream forever, like, and never went back to them unless it was time to feed them or something. Um, so that experiment played out on a huge level, and that's probably why so many of us are messed up, because of abandonment issues, because of what this doctor was preaching. And he wrote a book. I mean, it was like, that's how you raised your kids. You didn't let them. And as a matter of fact, I can remember um, my husband and I, with the kids coming, they'd want to come get in bed with us in the middle of the night. That was another no. You were not allowed to let your kids in your bed with you. Um, no matter how scared or frightened they were, from a night terror, you couldn't coddle them because it made them weak as human beings, I think was the theory. But I can remember seeing my kids, their fingers reaching under the door, Mom,
Yeah.
trying to get us to let them into the room, and it's amazing as parents. You don't get a book from these little things when you spit them out. They don't come with any kind of book that tells you what to do. And most of us haven't really been
Trained.
raised on how to parent. Obviously, I mean, we weren't even parented right, so how could we be raised on how to
Right.
parent? So we don't know what to do. I mean, I was 16, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
you don't know what to do. And so you
Scream.
read books by people that have credentials, and you do what they tell you to do, thinking that you're doing the right thing. And then it's not always the right thing. In fact, it's seldom the right thing. And that's kind of how a lot of entrepreneur books go too. There's a lot of books that are written that they may not necessarily be the right thing, or the gurus are preaching things that um, they're one way on screen when they're preaching with you, and then like they're completely different behind the scenes. They're doing some kind of pedophile stuff. Like we tend to always look to other people as that they know more and they know how things should be done, and um, that's not, especially in this day and age where you can like deep fake anything, anybody talking, you can deep fake their voice. I mean, you can't really trust some of the information that you get out there, I guess, is my point. And Lori and I know this lesson all too well with something recent that's just come up, kind of a blast from the past for us that we've had to deal with. But you do the best you can at the time. You do. Everybody does the best that they can at the time. And that is what has helped me get over a lot of my quote mommy issues, or whatever you want to call them, because I know that they didn't know what they were doing either. So I can't fault them any more than I can fault myself. I mean, I'd faulted myself for many years, but then I realized, hey, you did the best you could. You were just a kid yourself and had been living in the woods for years. Like, give yourself a break. what the hell was going on. So I think when we look back at our past and try to recover from that, we just have to give the love and forgiveness and unconditional acceptance that we would want those that we have, quote, trespassed against to give us. There's some good words in that book, even though I don't follow it, day to day. There's some good words in there.
And it is impossible to follow all of the letter of the law, whatever law you're looking at. And
I think you hit on a good point, though, Catherine. It's, each generation, I'm going to say it this way. I think each generation should look to the past generation to learn and take what they did, but then do the best you can because they were doing the best they could from, and like you said, it's not always the best to look to the doctors and this and that and all the person. It's best to look towards within your own family to see the family and how they, and then try and go back, maybe a couple generations and see, okay, well, the stories and stuff, because, I don't know a lot of the stories about before my grandparents because my family didn't really go into depth about them, but I know a little bit. But in that sense, look at that and then look and see and go, okay, well, they did this, they did those, and try and bring that, but then say, okay, but now where has that gotten me? And, I think we forget to look at the value of looking back to help us go forward. But at the same point, it's not all right. You got to make adjustment in going forward and give latitude and space to say, they were dealing with what they were dealing with, and that was a different time and things were a little different, but we move forward and we adjust, but we adjust with love, loving correction, loving guidance, and acceptance to ourselves that, we did the best we could. I mean, and when one of you two were talking about leaving kids alone until I don't know, I had the weirdest kind of deja vu, and it was in my body. I felt it in my body, and I'm just like, oh, did not like that. And now I understand why I reacted when somebody I know, and they weren't doing it to be mean, they were doing it as a point of, at that moment, they had all they could do with dealing with their child. And the child was wanting the mother, but they were separated, and it was time out that the child was with the father. And the child was too little to understand the difference. And, I know in the situation, he kind of just left the child alone on the couch, and he went to bed. That just did not sit well with me. It just, and like I said, and even when you guys were talking about it, and when you did that, and it hit me, but it just hit me through the core of my body, and now I realize that, oh, that is something maybe that was something that was done with me in my childhood that I never put two and two together till now. And it's like, maybe that's why I'm more the way I am. I'm very attentive to kids, especially younger kids, because I don't want them to suffer. And going through what I lived through, I don't. So I tend to play with kids more. I tend to give them more interaction, because there are a lot of parents that get caught up in, oh, I don't have time, I'm focused on this. They're like, no, I'm always going to have time. If there's a child around, and I'll somehow come back around to what I need to do. But there's a child around, I'm going to, focus on the child, because they need that attention and they need that time. And now I'm understanding a little bit more why that's a discomfort for me in that side. and but sometimes I don't like facing it either, and maybe that's why I have more issues in relationships, and where I feel you proving that you're worth the time and energy, I don't let you in. That might be some of my background too, and that discomfort. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on, but it just came out when I was listening to you guys.
It's those maybe it's this way, or if it's that way. And if you rely on what was done in the past in your family or whatever, everything constantly changes. Circumstances were not the same, so that you could make that same decision with the same results. It's going to be different.
I want to hear Samantha's thoughts because she's dealing with 3 kids in her house right now. She's like, lock them up.
It's
like, oh
hard.
no, you didn't. You did not just put me on the spot.
Well, I mean, it's hard. Kids are difficult. I mean, they are a challenge. And I think that, there's gotta be there's gotta be a balance, between the needs of the parents and the needs of the children, because I completely understand your perspective, Dan, when you had the experience that you had as a child. And and I agree, children they need that comfort, they need the security, they need all those things, but they also need to learn how to be independent. And even as babies, I mean, we can't just expect the mother to stay up 24/7 and sacrifice her own well-being because a child cannot stop crying. There are reasons why that happens, and it's not always just because the child needs comfort. It's because they're having whatever experience that they're having and they can't overcome it. And it doesn't matter what the parent does, the child still isn't going to be able to overcome it until they can, And so, for colic, for instance, that was a big one for a lot of years. I mean, I don't know if that's still a thing now. I'm guessing it probably is. And you cannot comfort a child out of colic. It's impossible. And so, and the same thing goes with children who they want whatever it is that they want. And and some children will get to the point where, okay, whatever, I realize I can't have what I want and I can overcome my discomfort of not having it and I can go about my day. Other kids cannot get past it. They just can't. And you can't comfort a child out of it. And it's not good to just give it to them just because they want it either, because maybe that thing that they want is not good for them. So you have to find a balance as a parent between self-care and also caring for your children. And I think that is, like what you were saying, Catherine, we had these teachers back in those days that said, just let your child cry it out, and those were extreme. They went to these extremes of just saying, at all costs, your child should be independent. And now we've kind of gone to the extreme of, on the other side of it is give your child anything and everything they want, because if they don't get everything and anything that they want, then they're not going to be a good kid growing up, or they're not going to be whatever. They're not going to feel safe. They're not going to feel loved. They're not going to feel all these things. So we have these two extremes. And I'm not saying I was a perfect parent by any means. I certainly wasn't. But we also have to help our kids, now we have to help our kids learn how to overcome discomforts on their own. And we have to teach them that they are capable of doing things on their own. And, because if we're doing everything for them, they're not going to learn how to do it for themselves. And they're not going to learn how to be in this world. That's why we have so many 40-year-old kids living at home, because they cannot take care of themselves. They never learned how because their parents did everything for them. So, this book is a perfect example of we have to help our kids understand what discomfort is and how to overcome it, because we're all faced with discomfort in one way or another form throughout our lives. And on the parent side of it, it can be uncomfortable to let your child go through something in order to overcome it.
Okay.
That's a big thing too. It is hard. I see, my kids struggle with their kids, in that aspect of, I don't want to see my kid be hurt. I don't want to, I don't want them to have to suffer. I don't want them to go through anything. I'm just going to do everything for them. And, and that is that because it seems easier, right? The instant reward right now, we're talking about this immediate rewards versus the long-term rewards. We see that in parenting a lot, is I can get my child to stop crying right now if I just give them whatever it is that they want. And that's an instant reward versus taking the time to teach the child how to overcome this experience that they're going through in this moment. So I don't think that you it's a balance. That's my thought process. It's a balance. You have to find the balance. And like you were saying, Catherine, when we were younger, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. We had no clue, and so we were reactive instead of thinking the things through and trying to figure it out. We were reactive. But when I was patient and when I had plenty of energy, I was always focused on trying to help the kids understand what was going on and work through it as much as I could. Now, when they're babies, you can give yourself a 10-minute break of letting them cry for 10 minutes or whatever. They're not, you can't comfort them out of whatever it is, I mean, some things you can, obviously, if they're scared, but on other aspects you can't. And you have to be able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable so that you can get that self-care. So that's all my thoughts on that though for now.
I'm going to jump in. I wasn't trying to say that every time a kid. No, I know boundaries and I understand, and I know that there are times when they need to just understand a no or not being allowed to do. I do get that, but in that moment, I think there are times when parents react, and they just react to the reaction rather than, like you said, looking at it for what it is and what it's worth. And so, yes, I agree wholeheartedly on what you were saying, and I'm not trying to make it seem like, oh, if I'm in the middle of doing whatever I'm doing, oh, there's a kid there, no, I don't do that. I've been known to tell them, look, you can go do your thing and stuff. You don't need me right here, right now, or stuff like that. Or no, I'm busy. I got to get this done. No, I understand that. But it is a balance. I'm sorry, what, Lori?
It's completely different when they're your own kids or somebody else's kids, and you don't know whether what you're teaching them is the right thing in the first place, because there's so many different philosophies and teachings, and having to decide, if you were not given the opportunity to think for yourself and make a decision on your own free will, that it is also complicated. No wonder there's so many crazy things going on in the world right now, and it always has been, I guess.
Yeah, this is incredibly triggering for me because my mom was incredibly young. She was 16 years old and a child herself, so no control over her emotions. I was born with colic in a month early, so I screamed from the time I woke up probably to the time I went to bed, and I know it was probably a huge challenge for her, especially with what she had going on. So I can tell you that my baby me did not get what it needed at all, and it didn't even know what it needed because it never got it. I mean, how do you know what you need if you never got it? So I grew up, I was that kid that when they left me alone in that room, I didn't cry at all. I just sat there and looked around because I was used to being left alone. And I learned at an early age how to escape those uncomfortable feelings that were inside of me by becoming introspective into my head and spinning things around in circles, because that's the only power I really had as a baby. So, I mean, this is a good topic for me. And I mentioned Gabor Mate. He talks about this. I don't know. I think that's all I got to say. Anyway.
But it's interesting how discomfort can bring out so many sides and so many aspects and so many different feelings in us, and how we look at it and approach it. Because I think what I'm learning for me is there's not a exact right approach for everybody. There's a right approach for me, and maybe what I do and how I do it or how I approach it is not going to be the same for like Kenneth or Lori or or you or Catherine. It's yes, we can offer our advice and based on how we see things and what we've lived through or what we've gone through, but and it's sometimes when you want to tell the friends, okay, just shut up. I need your empathy, but I don't want your advice right now. I just need your empathy and to understand and be in the moment with me until I figure out what I need to do. Or if you give me ideas, give them as an idea, not of coming from, oh, this is how I would do it. This is what you should do or what you have to do. That, and I think that's the other part of discomfort that nobody likes, and it makes it hard for us to swallow that pill then, so to speak, and then we just kind of turn in, I guess, a little more, or we turn to the things, or we just default to a reactionary thing or something like that, or maybe how our parents did it, or something, because right at that moment we're in that discomfort and we're not thinking as clearly as we should. And that's I think another thought is, like
Yeah.
you were saying, when you had patience, Samantha, you were able to look at it and come up with a better angle probably. But when we're in the moment, we're like, just shut up, or let me give you this and shut you up, or here, let me do this and leave me, go away and leave me alone and just let me, batten down the hatches and, kind of type thing. And that doesn't help anybody either though, too, at that point in time. But it's how the world reacts sometimes. And we're not going to change that. It's just, that I think goes back to it's just the way it is, that only through time and energy we can work on helping to, not have it be the way it is. But there are times when it is the way it is, just in that moment. And you got to kind of let that slip through and then move forward and figure out ways of how to go forward from there.
Well, I think it goes to the point, Dan, of the whole point is kind of breaking the cycle, breaking that cycle and believing you can break the cycle, right? I get a little triggered when people just say, oh, it's just the way it is, or just they all those cliches that allow people just to fall back into the same routine and not even make the effort to try to break the cycle. But that's the whole point, is of this, kind of this book, and what we try to do is to find ways to do things a bit differently, put our own spin on it if you need to, whatever it is. And I think that the way to, going back to like what the book was saying, coming down to rewards and pain, that explains a lot in relationships, in business, in um, in your own, in your own enjoyment of life. If you can really break things down to whether or not you are focused on the rewards or you focused on the pain of things, or in everything you do. Um, and you can flip it on yourself. You can actually reverse it on yourself and make it more about use both, whether it's the rewards or the pain, to your benefit, um, as well as your expectations, and realizing, where is this coming from? Is it, hey, is it expectations based on past, actual experiences, or is it are your feelings and expectations coming from just an outlook or perspective that isn't helpful, that you could just simply decide to say, I'm not going to look at it that way anymore. I'm just not going to. Or, we talked about, there was a slight discussion in the group about bypassing spirituality and not focusing on negativity, or making that a rule. And I get that. I get what they were saying about that, but also it's like, what do you want to bring to the forefront? Do you want to elevate the negativity to focus on that, or do you want to give more power to the positivity, and so that you're giving more time to it, you're focusing more time on it, to where it actually makes it easier to deal with the negative because you've got so much positive going on in your life. Um, so there's so many parts to it, and rewards and pain. I mean, that's also the old idea of, what do you react mostly to, the carrot or the stick? What type of a person have you? It's not wrong or right. It's just, what are you actually, what do you react more to, and how can you use that? Just knowing that that's how you are. Maybe, like, I think I'm more of a, I react more to the stick, like the threat of something bad happening, rather than the reward a lot of times. um and so knowing that about ourselves can help us in every step, um as well. um and I'll just stop right there for a moment, because I mean, there's one other thing I want to say, but just I just leave it there. But thanks. Yeah, a lot of great thoughts, and appreciate what you said, Dan.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I get it, but at the same point, and I think I can go back. I'm going to go back to Samantha and Catherine, maybe. Um, I have limited because of my nieces and nephews, but there are times when you're in the middle of a situation. Let's say, you know, you have a screaming kid. You're out and about. You're doing this. You have a screaming kid. They want this. They're doing that. You have a migraine. You're not feeling good. You're doing this. And you're not. You're just in that moment. And sometimes you have to just in that moment just do what is best, is maybe leave the store, go home, go, or do. But sometimes you just are in that moment, and sometimes that moment to really react in the way you would like to sit there and in your head say, oh, I really should react this way. Yeah, you might have that split second, but there are a lot of times where you don't have that split second and you're in that moment. And sometimes it has to be just what it is. You have to just move on, get
And
through
thank you
that.
for bringing that up, because that was actually my next, the last thought that I had forgotten, was reaction time.
And things
Sometimes we don't have the luxury. You were talking about our friends, like, oh, hey, sometimes I just want you to sit and be empathetic with me. I don't want your advice. Well, we don't always have that luxury of having the time to sit and console ourselves or work through it. Sometimes we need to go ahead and make the decision. So you're right. And, we got to be prepared to, hey, next time I'm in that situation where I've got a migraine, the kids are going crazy and whatever's driving me on, I've got a plan. And so it may take a couple, it exists instances to get something that works, but I think I think just having that plan can help break the cycle. Anyway, but yeah, thanks again.
It always brings back that song. If I only knew then what I know now.
Well, sadly, that just to build on that story, Dan, where like you're in a store, your kid wants something and they're screaming at the top of their lungs, you got a million thoughts going through your head, or at least I did. And sadly, most of them were based around what do other people think of me with my kid being here so out of control and me not being able to parent them correctly. Like it was more shame on myself than anything that had to do what was going on with the kid. I was just aggravated with the kid, but kids are kids and they're going to do what they're going to do. But it was all of the thoughts of, oh my God, all these people are looking at me and, should I whack them or should I pick them up and console them or should I give them what they want or should I take them out to the car and beat the shit out of them like my parent used to do? Or
Yep.
like, what, what do I do here? And of course, nowadays, it's even harder because everybody's got a phone. So I would hate to be a parent in this day and time because now everybody's watching you and they're recording you. And it's going to be on YouTube later today or Facebook. So, like, that adds a whole extra layer of holy shit, what do I do? And what happens if I accidentally do the wrong thing? And, I mean, it's tough. It's tough being a parent. Being a parent, other than being human, it's the hardest thing I ever did, is being a parent. And
I agree. And
nobody,
having parents like I did, we got left in the car by ourselves for a long time. They didn't deal with us in the store.
that's right. That's right. Exactly. Or, I mean, my grandma would take your hat off. She didn't care who was looking. Like, it, she had her own way about things. But God love her. I just love her so much. She's with me all the time. She, yeah. I think that's probably what turned me against church more than anything was getting beat after church so much for everything that I did wrong in church. So I couldn't figure out how they could just everybody's supposed to be getting along, and then when you left, you just got beat horribly. But um, you know, parents, God bless them, it's just a very difficult thing. And then you get to this stage in life, and if you're blessed enough that your parents are still alive, now you go back and you're parenting your parents as well as your children or grandchildren because they're reverting into children again. And it's that full circle is really, you have to find forgiveness for them. Otherwise, you can't play that role, which a lot of families don't. But I'm really blessed that we're working on it at least. So, it's just tough being human. It we don't get a book, we don't know what we're doing. And we've read a lot of wonderful books in this group, but it hasn't really been anything that I read in the books that has taught me or touched me. It's the conversations that we've had surrounding what we've read. So I just am grateful to all of you for the growth that I've been able to have by being in this group. Thank you. I love you guys.
And you stimulate so much of that growth too, girl. Love you all.
I was just gonna say I second that. I mean, what I get out of this, far outweigh any of the books and the friendships and everything from here. I tell people about this group and talk to them and say how much I love you guys, and even though I don't go into depth all the time of what we talk about, but I say, that in some ways, I think if it weren't for this group, I probably would have lost my sanity a long time ago, because you guys helped me look at things, and I'll be honest, and you emboldened my own faith in what I believe in my faith with God, and so in that, and I think this group can prove that you can have open and honest discussion, but yet still not put any down because of how they believe or what they believe or where their beliefs are going, or things like that. And I appreciate that from you guys about me with my faith and what I believe in. It just makes me love you guys all that much more.
I just know that I must have been absent or ditching the day they were handing out the manual about how to do all this, how to do life, how to be a parent, how to. I was ditching that day, I'll bet.
Now that's the joke. That's the cosmic joke, right? Is we all came here with no manual, with no ideas of how to do any of it, and then we knew we were jumping into this absolute chaotic insanity, and we chose to do it anyway. But we don't know that until that's why on. Oh my gosh, I love you guys so much, and again, I'm right there with you. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be where I am at this point in time in my personal growth, my family, my everything, because I would have killed somebody by now, So,
saying that.
But I wanted to touch one more time on this idea of it's not worth the risk, this part, because we've been talking a lot about relationships, and how many times can you guys think back in your life when you were confronted with a situation? Maybe it happened all the time, if it was a spouse or if it was a sibling or a parent, where you kept being confronted with this same discomfort and you just shut down, or you just stopped, or you just reacted in the same way and it just blew up. Whatever it is that we have this kind of tendency to think that if we attempt to do something different, it's going to be painful in some way, or that it is going to stir up some crap that we don't want to face. I think that happens a lot in spousal relationships, is you've been together for so long and you keep going through these same patterns of responses, and one person either just stops talking because you're having an uncomfortable discussion, or whatever. But the truth is, the only way to make growth in relationships is to work through those discomforts that you have, but I can tell you there's a lot of times where, Chris and I will get into something and I'll just be like, I just don't even want to talk about it anymore, and I just need to step away. And and we've gotten there because I haven't used any kind of personal growth tools to work through it, but the instant reward, like like the other thing it says in here, that instant gratification or instant reward, or the instant stopping of the comfort.
Isn't that where passive aggressive behavior comes from?
I think it is. That's what it is that passive aggressive behavior comes from us not wanting to work through our discomfort. We want it to stop.
Shutting down
right now. We want it to, we don't want to face what's really the underlying issue of, I feel this, that, or the other, and I want to talk. We don't know how to talk about those things. We weren't given a manual, just like we weren't given a manual on how to raise kids. We weren't given a manual on how to have relationships either. And, we're both going through these experiences in that relationship. It's not just me, it's the other person too. And, we have kind of compassion for one another. Like you said, we recognize that we're going through these struggles versus they're doing this to me. That's the other thing, is that we have a thing in our growing up, our upbringing, our family relationships, that whenever we have a confrontation, that other person is doing it to me. And, they're making me feel blah, 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 whatever that is. And when we can recognize that that's not true, we're making ourselves feel that way. And we are the ones that are creating that discomfort inside of us because of whatever's coming up for us. Like, Dan was saying that, he had those feelings were coming up for him when this child was being left on the couch, and I completely recognize that. I mean, I can see that in every aspect of my life. And when I have these discomforts come up, it's because of whatever baloney I have in my own self. And when it comes to my husband, I mean, and my kids and the grandchildren, all of them, so if we can recognize those things and give ourselves pause in the moment of when that, whatever it is that is coming up, and say, okay, I have this discomfort. It's I don't know what it is, or, I don't want to go through it anymore. I just want to stop because it's easier to stop, or it's easier to just react, or whatever. As we can recognize that it's happening, then we can do it in a different way. Whatever it is, we just try something different to
That
make it
brings
change.
me back to your original comment about taking care of your diet. So all this baloney we have, I don't think that's a very healthy part of the diet.
Exactly, the baloney, the not good for us stuff, right? Love it, love it. All right, guys. Well, we've got a lot of information to chew on for this week. I think the one thing that I'm going to work on is this concept of the now reward versus the future reward, and keep reminding myself, okay, I don't the instant gratification isn't as important as the future result that I'm looking for. So I'm going to be working on that this week. In
Yeah,
multiple.
I'm gonna go with you on that one too. I think the immediate reward is always going to be smaller than really looking in and looking at the reward that will result from either working through it or making a different decision, or whatever, in that, be just because I want to avoid the discomfort and I want that reward now.
Exactly. And if you've seen the experience where they put a child in a room by itself with two cookies, or with a cookie, and if you can avoid eating the cookie, then I'll give you another one at the end of the specified determination of time. And how many of them didn't have the discipline to not eat the cookie so they could get two cookies? Anyway, I love you all. Have a great week.
I just want to reiterate that, or acknowledge, I guess, that this thinking about greater rewards, if we suffer, we'll have greater rewards. That's probably how we wound up on this planet, you guys.
Oops.
Oh my goodness gracious. What exactly is it we think we're going to get? Put ourselves through all this insanity. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Although, isn't that like the basis of a lot of religions, all right, guys, this has been a great discussion. I love you all, and we're way past the hour, so let's go ahead and wrap up for this week. And then, so anyway, for those of you who are watching, if you've enjoyed this discussion, then give us a like on YouTube and share this video with anybody you want to, or you think that would benefit. And if you want to be notified when we upload the next video, then subscribe to our channel and you'll get a notification for that. So with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week, and we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.